Good morning all, it's Postbag. And first up it's this, it just says adapter. Let's find out what it really is. Well, it really is an MK-SW01, so still not much further forward. Oh, it's my smartwatch! And this one is round. Well, I think this warrants the full unboxing experience. It might be a bit of yanking. Okay, we have a little USB charge lead there. The buckle, metal buckle, which fits into the silicone plastic. But that's quite nice, isn't it? There's a lump there on the front. Now, is that some sort of sensor or is that the button? Because it doesn't look like there's a button on the side. This is a really novel shape. Let's get in a bit closer. The manual is just really horrible. It's an A4 piece of paper. But what I was particularly keen to know is, does this use the same app as the orange one that I got the other day? And it doesn't. It's different. So that's interesting. This uses the iFit app. The other one had Mov Now Plus, which I have actually now managed to get to work. And it's really quite good. But this is interesting because this is iFit. So this might have a different chip inside. Let's see if we can get inside it. Now this sits in a stretchy silicone band which just wraps around a groove in the outside, so the little disc comes out like that. Let's peel the front off it. I don't know what that is. Is that a button? It doesn't have a sort of clicky feel to it. And how does this thing come apart? There's the charge port. It's really tiny actually. See if I can prise it apart. Right, well, before we do that, let's just have a look at this on eBay. Here it is. It's the OLED Bluetooth health wristband sport fitness sleep tracker monitor smartwatch. This one was a bit more than the orange one. This is $13.99. I think the orange one was $9.99. Free shipping, and this came from Gersunhua. Now, actually, I suppose the first thing to do before totally brutalizing this thing is to power it up. To see if something comes on the display. Switch the power bank on. It's buzzing, says hello, and now says it's charging. So yeah, that display is quite nice, but that does work. It is a button. It's a touch sensor button. It's actually quite sensitive. So the time is 12 o'clock. It isn't, of course, because you can't actually set the date and time. It's very interesting, these things. What have we got? Steps, 0. Picture of a road by the look of it. Fire, which means calories. Running time, that looks like. Yeah, okay, so that's all that stuff. It's a shame it's strobing. Of course, it isn't in real life. It looks actually quite nice, but the refresh rate on here is obviously close to the camera's shutter rate. So it looks like it's strobing. But yeah, I think now... Oh yeah, it's still charging. The other one charges really quickly. It charged the Lipo in about 20 minutes. I'm not sure whether this is going to do the same. So they're obviously pumping quite a lot of current into that tiny little 60 milliamp hour it was in the other one. Lipo. Let's see what's inside this one. I'm going to have to break this apart. I do like that touch switch though. That's really nice. Capacitive touch switch. This just is a more elegant unit than the orange one. Right, well, with the aid of this screwdriver, that has actually yielded and started to come apart. So maybe it's just a press fit. Yep, it looks like it's just a press fit. Oh, nice. Let's get in close. Okay, this is quite nice. There's the touch sensor pad. And in order to bring that to the front, in here, there's a little bit of sort of metal covered foam which just extends the sort of touch sensor out close to this little circle on the front. The OLED's really bright. It's really nice. It's a shame actually that the cover is frosted so that it dulls that down, but it's really bright. Now behind here is the Lipo. Oh, it's not marked. That's a shame. But it's probably similar to the other one, 60. I think the instructions in the other one said 40 milliamp hours, but actually it had a 60 milliamp hour cell in it. Now I'm assuming that button there is the vibrator, because I can't see a vibrator on the board. It's a shame actually they didn't put it on the board, and that it's on the end of those wires, because that's all rather delicate. But I'm interested in seeing what the chip is, so let's have a look at that. And it is a CC2541. Now I'm just going to have a look at the comments in the Postbag where I undid the orange watch, because one guy, I can't remember his name now, but I'll find out who it is, put quite a bit of detail on the various chipsets that these watches use. So I'm just going to have a quick read of that. Right, yeah, here it is. This is, now I'm going to call you Matty Zubchik. Says smartwatch uses NXP's Quintic QN9021. Now I think that chip was in the orange watch. I wanted to see this NRF 51822. Now he also says down here, basic smartwatches bands generally use these ICs, the TI CC2541. Well, this one was a CC2541, so that appears to be that. DA14580 or the NXP QN9021. So I appear to have these two chips, 2541 and 9021, and then of course Nordic's NRF 51822. So okay, now this is a different chip to the orange watch by the look of it, and it uses a different app. But the orange watch works. It'd be interesting to see if this one works. Now I've just noticed on this one that the cell has a little PCB with a couple of chips on there. So this cell has protection actually in the cell, not on the board, which I think was different on the orange one. So let's just put this back together, if I can indeed get it back together. I think it goes pretty much like that. Why won't that push home? I'll just have a closer look. I love that touch switch. This is an excellent watch. Well, having put it back together, I seem to have interfered with the function of the touch switch, which appears to no longer work, so I'm not quite sure why that is. Looks like I'm going to have to open it up again. Yeah, I'm struggling with this now. The touch switch works if I just touch it on the PCB. I mean, maybe I've greased up this little connector to the point where it's not connecting to that. This is a little sort of braided, let's see if I can get that to focus, a little bit of braided metallic fabric wrapped around a little piece of foam rubber, but that no longer seems to be touching the pad on the PCB, so I'm not quite sure what's going on. Maybe I'll just give that a little bit of a clean and then try and align the two parts when I put this thing back together. Try and get that in alignment. Ah, is that working? Well, the touch switch does seem to be a bit of a weak part of this, because that's no longer working, and that's really annoying. Let's try squeezing this so that it becomes a bit taller. Let's try that. This is clearly a bit of a weak point on this watch. Maybe it just wasn't touching. You'd have thought it would be near enough. Oh! Really struggling now to make that work. I don't understand why that doesn't work. Let's try it on the desk. Ah! Well, I'm going to have to move on because I still can't get this touch switch to work reliably. I'm going to charge the battery up because maybe with low battery power it's not very reliable. So I'll leave that on charge for a bit and move on to the next item. Now this one does say what it is on the other side, so I know what to expect. Don't know what it looks like though. And it is a power bank. It is does it say? No, I think it's 18 650s. Power banker. This actually appears to be. Or let's quickly go through it. 5 volts, 1 amp to 2.1 amps input. 5 volts, 2000 milliamps output. Could just say 2 amps. DC 3.6 volts, presumably when the boost converter is not running. I remember why I bought this now. Because this has 5 volts, 6 volts, 9 volts and 12 volt outputs. I'm not entirely sure how you invoke them, and there are no instructions. So that'll be fun trying to work this out. The capacity, 3.7 volts, 20,400 milliamp hours. But of course that's irrelevant because there are no cells in here. Is that a button? No, that's probably a release button for the cover. Yeah, there's the cover off. So yeah, 6 18650s in there. I'll just peel that off. I'll probably just put 1 in for now, just to get the thing to power up. And we'll see what comes up on the display. Now, I've just spotted this switch on the side, which has 3.7, 5, 6, I probably could do this a bit better way, 9 and 12 volt outputs. Now the question is, if you set it to a high voltage, is that going to come out on the USB sockets, or socket, there is only the one, because that would be pretty disastrous. That's 5 volts out. There's an LED there. That actually says in, but it isn't in. It's an LED. Oh, how do you charge this thing then? Oh, you charge it there. Okay, so it's got a USB input for charging. There's another LED there by the look of it. I'm not sure what that is. There's an empty hole there, and then there's an output here, 2.1 millimeter, presumably for the high voltage out. But I am interested to see whether we get nasty high voltages on the 5 volt output. What did this cost? I think I'm just going to have a look. Well, interestingly, in my purchases list, it says that I paid $5.88 for it. But it's now showing as $7.88. That's the current price. So this is mobile Powerbank box USB 6x18650 battery charger with these multi-voltage outputs. That's really why I bought it. Free shipping, and that came from Timely Rain 001, 99.4% positive feedback. Right, I just tried to put this cell in, and there's no way I'm going to get, without really bending it, a protected cell in there. And in fact, you shouldn't really use protected cells in here because the board has cell protection on it. So I need to find an unprotected cell. Right, I think this one is unprotected. So let's put that one in one of these slots. Pause to pause. Yeah, that's definitely right. Oh, the lights come on. Oh gosh, that's bright. Yes, that's very bright. Okay, so that's saying that the pack is full. Now a light came on. Okay, I've turned the torch off, but there's a blue light there. What's that for? So double click. Is that blue light related to these blue lights? No, it's not. I wonder if that's the fact that the USB output is on. Torch is a double click. That's fine, that's usual. Let's check these outputs and the voltages. Now this YZX Studio power monitor can take between 4 and 13 volts. So this is safe to use on all these voltage settings. So on 3.7, nothing appears to be coming out of the USB and there's a blue light on. Let's go to 5. At 5 we have 5.2 volts coming out. There's still a blue light on. At 6, the USB shuts off, which is a very sensible precaution. 9 and 12. So okay, it looks like the USB port is protected and only operates when you've got the button in the 5 volt position, which you'd expect. I can't be sure whether or not 3.7 volts is coming out. This is 4 to 13. This probably would run at 3.7, so that probably shuts the USB off on that setting as well. Good, that's okay. Now let's check the multi-voltage output. Right, well in the 3.7 volt position, it's actually putting out 4.12 volts, and that strikes me that it's a bit high to just be, oh, that's interesting. Now it's just suddenly dropped to 2 volts. And that's gone back up to 4.13. So there's obviously, why would it drop to 2 volts? That cell's not at 2 volts. Very weird. Maybe that would eventually drop down to 0. Okay, let's go through the others. That's the 5 volt where the USB output is on. 5.2, that's what we measured on the power monitor. 6 volts actually measures 6.3. 9 volts measures about 9.5. And 12 volts measures 12 volts, although it's kind of moving around a little bit, but that's fine. So let's go back to this 3.7 volts. Now that's dropping down very, very slowly. Probably would drop down a bit quicker than that if there was a load on it. So there's a capacitor on the output, clearly. So I'm just going to have to wait for that to drop down. Actually, maybe if I turn it on. No, that's just going to drop down in its own time. Now, I remember recently having problems driving this air pump fan. I mean, it's just a 12 volt motor, but it does take quite a current. I can't remember what the current spec for this was. Let me just check that. Right, this probably won't be able to drive this thing because this is going to be, well, at least 1.5 amps. And apparently the 12 volt output on this is current limited to 0.6 amps. And it has protection. Should we find out whether it really does have protection? Let's poke it into this fan, switch on, and see what happens. Absolutely nothing. So either it does have current limiting or I've blown it up. I wonder if it run at lower voltages, because you can get more current at the lower voltages. No, nothing happening. I'll get a bulb. And now with a 12 volt bulb, be careful I don't short it out. Having trouble getting it to connect. Oh, maybe it's shut off. Okay, let's try 5 volts. Oh yeah, I have to switch it on. Okay, so that's 12, that's 9, that's 6, that's 5. And that's what it calls 3.7, but possibly it drops down under a no load condition and the unit switches off. I may measure that 3.7 again and just leave it for the capacitor to discharge. I've just taken the cover off because the alignment between this button here and the actual tactile switch on the board seemed to be a bit problematic, and it was not clicking. I'm just beginning to believe that this blue light here is just an on LED, and after a period of time that will just time out. The white LED is the torch, the double click LED. Oh, and that's gone off. It's interesting because the torch appears to work independently of the boost converter, the power output part of this thing. Interesting. And then you've got the 4 things here, but oh yeah, okay. Once it's switched off, that then comes on to show you how much capacity there is in here. A little bit struggling a bit with this user interface at the moment. Well, while I've got the top off, might as well just look at what's in here. The main chip is a hot chip, and I've seen hot chip processors, microcontrollers inside these things before, so it's a purpose designed. Well, it's either a microcontroller or it's a purpose designed chip designed for running these power banks. These 2 4-pin devices, I think they're MOSFETs. You can see that the 4 legs at the top of this one here are all commoned, and that's fairly typical with MOSFETs. You've got commoned pins to handle the current. This one down here appears to have 4 commoned pins on the right, so we can get the light in the right place. So that's probably another MOSFET. I'm just going to take this board out because I'm quite interested to see if there's anything on the underside. No, there's nothing on the underside. So there actually isn't much in here. Just the microcontroller, a couple of MOSFETs, one presumably to turn off the USB port, when you're at any other voltage than 5. Now this is a bit strange, the way this is all laid out. You've got the black wire coming up to here. I presume these are linked underneath, these bits of brass or copper. Brass, I would imagine. This is linked across the top. This must be linked underneath. This isn't linked across the top, but someone's soldered a link on. And then that one must be linked underneath again. Interestingly, the listing, well, I'll show you the listing. The listing says can install 6 pieces 18650 or 3 pieces. Must install alternation. So are they saying that it has to be either 6 or 3? I don't think that's anything specifically to do with the battery connections, because they're just all paralleled. Maybe that's got more to do with the estimation of capacity, but that is an odd request that it's either 6 or 3. And the positive side is no less bemusing, because we've got a single red wire here. These 4 are obviously linked, and then there's a wire link to these 2. I mean, maybe it's just the way these bits of brass are made. It's a very strange arrangement. So yeah, there it is. A 6 18650 cell mobile power bank with the multi-voltage output function. The USB output is protected against going to silly voltages. But that is a bit of a limitation, just 600 milliamps at 12 volts. And finally, we have, now this does say what it is on the front. It's a wireless doorbell. Yes, it's a wireless doorbell with multiple musical sound effects thingy bobs. Okay, now this thing has a space for 2 AAAs. There's also a button on the back here, which I believe is going to switch between the different tunes. So let's find a couple of AAAs to go in there. This has this big button on the front, which looks quite nice. A sticky pad on the back, and I think this takes one of those 23A 12 volt batteries. I hope I've got one. So let's see what's inside here, if I can get the back off. Yes, okay. Wow, that's interesting. There's a crystal and an inductor. Everything else is on the front side of the board. Do you know, I quite fancy taking that board out. There's probably just a chip on there. Is it going to come out? What do I grab to get it to come out? Aha. Oh, there's a few bits and bobs on there. A few transistors by the look of it. The button. Oh, lots of antenna-y bits you can see on the board. And the spring contacts for, yes, indeed. It's a, I can't remember what it's called, a 23 or a 23A 12 volt battery. Actually, I've probably got one of those in one of the remote control transmitters. I'll have a look. No, these are actually AA's, AAs, which is nicer in some ways. Oh no. Next. Sorry this is so loud. Yeah, I can cover it a bit. What? Oh, the tuning's terrible. Anyway, enough of that. And yes, a previous eBay purchase. Obviously thinking ahead, I do have some of these 23A batteries. So let's put one in the transmitter. Now this is a little bit deceptive because you press the button and nothing happens. But it's one of these tactile switches, so you have to press it on the soft bit and then also click it on the hard bit. This was the least offensive sound I could find on this unit. It's playing havoc with my camera here. So yes, you have to overcome the soft bit and press the hard bit. That's weird. Now I just find by clicking the board in a bit further, there's much less of the soft springy bit. And there is a blue LED confirmation light, so it's likely visitors wouldn't just fail to press that properly. But The tunes in here are just obscene. There's 38 of them as well. It's horrible. Tuning's out. Oh, standard doorbell. And various hideous tunes. I think I'm going to have to open this up. Not much in here. Speaker, battery box. Let's get a bit closer in on this board. Interesting loop antenna there. That's quite novel. Now there are two chips here. I'm guessing the little 8-pin one down here is a power amplifier, because this is actually quite loud. And then the other chip, 14-pin is it, is almost certainly the music effects generator thingy bob. And there's a little crystal there. Now would that be an RF type crystal, or would it be related to clocking the chip? Probably, because there's a crystal in the other one, it's an RF crystal. So yeah, this is absolutely lovely. I love this wireless doorbell. Let's see what the default sound is when you put the batteries in. Is it the sound that was previously used? Oh god, even the bells! Even the chime is out of tune. This is wonderful. And just a quick range check. I'm going to run as far away as I can. Running away. Try it from here. And yes, of course, as it should be, it's absolutely fine at about 10 meters. And so here it is on eBay. It's the LED. Yes, there is an LED. Wireless chime doorbell, wireless remote control, 32 tunes, songs, whatever that is. And this was $3.71, free shipping from Der Besta. And finally, back to the smartwatch with the round face and the rather nice silicone thing. This is fully charged now, and it's only been, I don't know, half an hour or so. So they charge these batteries, the lithium cell, quite aggressively. Now, is this going to play ball and respond to the... Oh, I've broken this, haven't I? I've just broken it, and it's really annoying because this looks nice. It just does no longer respond to that touch sensor. I can't imagine what's wrong, because even if that little metallic braid thing wasn't properly touching the pad on the PCB, this is a capacitive touch sensor. So it should jump across the gap, shouldn't it? That's what capacitors are all about, aren't they? I'm really annoyed. I'm going to have to try and fathom out what I've done with this, because it just doesn't work. If I put the power on... No, that just says I have full charge, but I can't get it to respond. Yeah, it still works fine with the front off. I can touch that and go through all the menus, but not with the front on. Just a real design fail, that, unless I've missed something here. What am I doing wrong? And so these are today's Postbag items. Come on, work. Oh, it has worked. My goodness. It has finally worked. It takes a bit of encouragement, but... Oh, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Cheerio.